At the age of 25, I found myself still residing with my older brother Daniel, who had reached the age of 29. When we were still young, our parents departed from this world. And he stepped into the role of my guardian. I served as a graphic designer at a local firm while Daniel thrived as a successful lawyer. Our bond had always been strong, yet in recent times, an unusual tension had begun to weave itself between us. One evening, as I prepared to retire for the night, Daniel entered my room unannounced. I was getting ready for bed when Daniel entered without knocking, catching me off guard initially. A wave of embarrassment washed over me, but soon I caught a peculiar glint in Daniel's gaze. His attention was unwavering, his eyes tracing my form with an intensity that stirred a sense of unease within him. I apologized for the interruption. He spoke softly, unsure of how to begin the conversation. I would like to discuss something with you. I wrapped my robe snugly around myself, attempting to shield as much of my skin as possible. What could it possibly be? I inquired of my voice. With a slight tremor, Daniel paused briefly, then edged a step nearer me. I've been reflecting on our connection. He spoke of his comfort, never straying from the bond we share and the significance we hold for one another. Uncertainty loomed over me, a palpable discomfort that I couldn't quite shake off. Dear Daniel, I am your sister, I declared. He paused for a moment, then moved closer, bridging the gap that separated us. Though he spoke with a gentle tone, there are moments when I find myself sensing something greater for you, something profound. My astonishment was palpable. This was my brother, my protector, my trusted companion. Until that moment, he had always been just family to me. But as I gazed into his eyes, an undeniable longing emerged that I could no longer overlook. In the weeks that followed, an inexplicable pull between Daniel and me began to take shape, weaving an undeniable connection between us. Throughout the day, we exchanged furtive glances, and by nightfall, we found ourselves sprawled on the couch, lost in a film yet preoccupied with thoughts of one another. As we lay in bed, the warmth of our shared moments lingering in the air, Daniel extended a hand and grasped mine. I gazed at him, my heart pounding, and noticed the familiar longing in his eyes that I had observed previously. Almost instinctively, I pressed my lips against his. It felt confusing at first, given our long history and deep emotional bond. But it was then I realized, we weren't just friends. We were something more. Yet, as Daniel's arms enveloped me, I came to understand that this sensation transcended mere physical attraction. I confused emotional dependency with affection, not realizing I was clinging to the only family I had left. Wick was acutely aware that our actions were misguided, that they contradicted all the principles instilled in us, yet we found ourselves unable to resist the pull of temptation. We started to slip away, rendezvousing in the shadows to evade any prying eyes. We began avoiding each other, silently aware that our closeness had begun to blur healthy boundaries. One fateful night, Daniel's best friend Jake arrived unexpectedly. As I stood in the kitchen, the aroma of brewing coffee enveloping me, I heard the unmistakable sound of their arrival. Their voices drifted in from the living room, a murmur that eluded my understanding, leaving me in a state of curious uncertainty. I caught the sound of Jake's voice escalating in distress. What on earth is happening here? I stood still, my heart pounding in my chest. A sense of foreboding washed over me. It was clear that our secret had been unearthed. With hesitant steps, I entered the living room, my legs trembling beneath me. I observed Jake in a standing position, in the doorway. His visage was ashen, a portrait of disbelief. Daniel sat on the couch, his head in his hands, palms. What is happening? I inquired of my voice, scarcely rising above a whisper. Jake glanced in my direction. His eyes were wide. I am truly astonished that you chose not to share this with me. He spoke, his voice heavy with pain. I believed we shared a bond of friendship. I believed we had shared that with one another. All that captured my gaze. Daniel, my heart is shattering. I realized that we had erred. What we had been doing was misguided, yet I was unaware of the profound impact it would have on those around us in the days and weeks that ensued as Daniel and I endeavored to gather the fragments of our lives. From the fragments of our existence, we understood that our paths could not intertwine. What we had done was beyond forgiveness. We ceased our conversations, meticulously staring clear of one another at every opportunity. I left the apartment, unable to endure the weight of the memories that lingered from our time together. I moved out to find space and clarity and threw myself into work to rebuild my sense of self, yet, despite my efforts, the memory of Daniel's arms enveloping me lingered, refusing to fade away, or the sensation of his lips brushing against mine. His absence weighed on me more than I had ever imagined it could, yet, deep down, I understood that our paths would never cross in that way again. On a quiet night, as I lay in bed, a sudden knock echoed through my door. I rose and opened the door, anticipating the sight of a delivery person or perhaps a neighbor, yet, there stood Daniel before me. His eyes brimmed with the weight of regret I require. He expressed a desire to converse with you. His voice was gentle. For a brief instant, I found myself pausing. She then stepped aside, granting him entry. We lingered on my couch, the air around us heavy with unspoken words. I apologized. He lowered his gaze. It was never my intention for things to unfold this way. My intentions were never to cause you pain. I gazed at him, my heart heavy with longing. I realize I utter it, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. Yet, we cannot alter the events that have transpired. It is irreversible. Daniel gave a slight nod, his shoulders shifting subtly, slouched. I understand. He spoke, his voice heavy with sorrow, yet, I felt compelled to share this with you. Something. I must express my love for you, a sentiment that will endure forever. Emotion surged within me, and I felt the sting of tears as I gazed at him. I cherish you as well, I proclaimed. Emotion tightened my throat, rendering my voice nearly inaudible. Yet, our paths cannot intertwine. We must safeguard all that we possess, for an endeavor that is destined to be flawed. Daniel nodded, his gaze brimming with comprehension. He spoke, and I could hear the regret lacing his voice, yet I found it necessary to express my true feelings. As I observed him leaving my apartment, what we shared was confusion, born from pain, not love, and it needed to end before we lost ourselves further. Yet we were acutely aware that our choice was just, that our connection as siblings had taken precedence over our individual wants. As I shut the door softly, a profound realization washed over me. My love for him would endure, unwavering and eternal, regardless of the circumstances.